What's ripening YouTube? So I want to give a little bit of perspective in terms of what I consider forest gardening or food forestry. My favorite way of doing a food forest, which in my vernacular, a food forest is more of a naturalized, you've got flowing paths and you have beds that are kind of clustered in group, but it's not linear, it's not straight lines, stuff like that. The way I like to do food forestry is to start with a main element like an oak tree, or maybe a cluster of oak trees, or maybe a couple of pine trees like you'll see above me here. I like to start with that as like the nucleus. If you think of it as a macroorganism or a cell, the nucleus is the center, and then you have all the electrons spinning around it. So in this case, I have my nucleus of a little mini forest, whether it be one tree or a group of trees or whatever, and I've extended the edge out. And that's what I like to do a lot. You get a buffering effect from the existing trees. You can use those trees. One of the most interesting things to me is you can use them to grow more food, and most people don't do that. Most people don't take advantage of it. Here's an example right here. This is a passion fruit tree. So the tree, you can see it's in full bloom ski right now. It's gonna go and hold a heavy crop. This is an Albizia lebic tree. This tree was here before I got here. It was knocked over in a hurricane, grew back. There's actually no leaves on the tree. This is all just passion fruit. But I love taking those original elements, putting a vine crop up the tree, extending the edges, and I'm starting to refine that idea now. What I'm doing now, and you can do it in a couple different orders, but the passion fruit, when you plant it like that, you've got about 3 years of decent growth. The first year, the passion fruit's going to be climbing and trying to get itself established. The second year, you're going to have your first crop, typically. Third year, you're going to have a really heavy crop, and then you might get a fourth year maybe. But usually year 2 and 3 is when you're going to be in production, and then that vine actually will die back. And so what you can do, I'll show you right here where I did this. This tree behind me, you can see it's been thinned out now. I've taken a lot of the middle of the canopy out for a couple reasons. But what you can do is you grow the passion fruit up here, which I did, the passion fruit fruits, which it did copiously. The passion fruit vine dies away, and if you look carefully, you can see some of the old vine up there. I don't know if it'll show up on the but here's some of the old vine right here. This is the old dead stuff. Once that comes down, you have an opportunity to prune your tree, and the tree you can bring biomass down, and you can put it out to the surrounding bed. You can bring in a little bit more light. So if you do have an understory, like I've got a couple of pineapples in here and a monstera and a little, what do you call that? Lesser galangal and some things. You can bring a little bit more light into under the canopy, open it up. In my case, since I have kids, I'm trying to make my trees more climber friendly, so I'm always kind of opening the middle so that my kids can kind of get up there and perch. Just because I loved climbing trees when I was a kid, so that's part of what I'm doing. The other strategy that I do with these trees, and I'm going to start doing this a lot more, is I grow these yams. If you look, I've already harvested most of them, but here's one that's just kind of sticking out of the ground. All I did here, don't even have to dig that thing out. Let's see here, if I can get my hand under it. So there's a nice meal for the family. But what I did, there's another little, I put bamboo stakes about 10 feet away from the base of the trunk. So there's the tree. Here's where I planted. I put a bamboo pole up into the canopy. So when this yam sprouted, it climbed up the bamboo, occupied all this space. All the leaves were up here. All the root production's down here. And then when it comes down, when it goes dormant, I just pull all that material down, harvest out my yams, and I've got this open tree that I can do what I want if I want to prune it or whatever. I did that all the way around. This one I haven't harvested yet, but there was one here, there was one there, one over here, one over here. And if you watch my Instagram, you probably saw we did like a little reel with yams, with the Steel Pulse song, Back to My Roots. That was kind of a fun little thing. But basically, I did the same thing with this. This is a Jamaican cherry tree, and they're fast-growing, tough trees. Actually, I grew yams on top of this for the whole summer, and now the yams have been pulled out. There was a lot of biomass kind of sitting up here. I pulled it all off, and then now you'll see this tree is flowering again, and it's ready to pop off with some fruit. It was being shaded out by the yams, but now it's ready to go back again into production. To me, that's truly working with the forest. You know, taking elements that are already there, optimizing them, using them for what they are. They're a structure, or they're a biomass production element, or they're a shade, or they're a wind buffer, or they're an attractant for birds, or, you know, using them for what they are, you know, using what you actually do have already. I think that's so fascinating. And when you do that, you end up with lots of different situations, versus when you come out to a big grassy field like this particular area, I have to create the situations, which is it's another challenge, another thing that I like to do. But it feels different in the forest garden. It's a totally different feel. People tend to, usually when people are coming into these types of areas, that's when you get the, wow, oh, I like it in here. You know, there's usually something to nibble on through here. Here it's all cut down. Like I said, this is I think I said it in this video, everything's cut down, everything looks kind of dry. We're in the dry season. In this case, I took a giant wax myrtle tree, cut it back, and started planting around it. Now the wax myrtle is starting to die back. It was basically the biggest wax myrtle I've ever seen. I think it's lived its whole life. It's dying back, but it's a nitrogen fixing native tree. Another nitrogen fixing tree, the wax myrtle, cabbage palm. That was my nucleus, which I've cleaned it out this year earlier. And on the outside, I've got these different wild mangoes. I've got coconuts. I've got some annonas planted through here. But just about extending the edge, using the trees for what they are. If you come back over here on my new property, I'm in the process of taking some of these lower limbs out of the oak trees. You'll see that's what's all on the ground over here is all the limbs I've been cutting. And what I'm doing is lifting the canopy up so that I have room under here. Like where I'm standing right now, it's probably 15 feet to the lowest branch. So I have enough room. I can grow dwarf bananas right through here, all through here if I want to. Having that high canopy. The canopy helps buffer the wind so the banana leaves don't get damaged as much. It gives me a different situation to grow different crops than I would out in the full sun. If you buy land, I talk to a lot of different types of clients and different types of landowners. Some of them have land that's already just a forest. That doesn't mean it's useless. It doesn't mean you can't grow any food. You just have to grow different food. And you might want to come up with a strategy where maybe you're removing a tree at a time, or maybe you're taking some of the canopy at a time from some of your trees. So you're letting more light in. You're harvesting your biomass that you can put back into the ground. In whatever manner, whether you're cutting it up or mulching it or burning it for biochar, whatever it is. There's ways to get through it. The only time it gets really tricky is when your trees are really big, and then it's rather dangerous, and you probably need to hire a professional to do the work. But trees like what I have here, I have a battery powered pole saw. That's what I use to do all the limbing work that I've done so far on these trees. I haven't had to get up on a ladder. That's what I prefer to do. Anyway, that's all I got for now. See you next time.